Prestwick Sailing Club is a traditional dinghy racing club based in Prestwick, which is just north of Ayr on the Upper Clyde. So we sail on the sea, we launch off a beach, and although it's straight onto the sea, it's a fairly sheltered area, so it's a real good venue for racing. And the club itself has been around for about 60 years. We were a very traditional sort of 20th century dinghy racing club. And at the moment, we've got about 300 members doing mainly dinghy sailing, but we're doing a little bit of coastal rowing and a few other things as well, but it's mainly dinghy sailing at the moment. We recognised a number of years ago that the old model of dinghy racing clubs was not really sustainable. A large proportion of our racing fleet were about the same age as me, so getting on, learned to race in the 70s and 80s, and they were just slowly drifting away, and we were not able to replace them because we think that people today are looking for something different from what people were looking for back in the 1970s and 1980s. There's so many other demands on people's time and other things to do. So a number of years ago, we recognised that continuing on the same sort of track as we were before was just not sustainable, and we had to think about doing things different. So the first thing we did really was come up with a vision for the club and what we wanted to do. And the sort of two key things were we wanted to provide and encourage participation in water sports and all other activities associated with the club. And we also wanted to ensure ease of access to sailing and other water sports. We know that the general perception is that sailing is very expensive and a bit elitist. We wanted to try and break that down and make sailing and any other water sports that we would do easily accessible to everybody. And sort of tied in with all of that, we had to deliver that in a way that ensured a sustainable future for the club. And that meant changing away, or not changing away from the existing racing fleet, but certainly adding to that racing fleet with other activities. As I mentioned, we had a vision for the club, and we had to think of a way. Well, how do we deliver that vision of sustainability and ease of access and encouraging participation? So we had to come up with a strategy that built on what we already did. So the things we wanted to do to deliver that vision were to maximise the club usage, and because we originally were a dinghy racing club, the club was only really used at the times that we had club events on. We've got a big clubhouse. Most of the time it was empty, and it was certainly not used at all during the winter. So one of the things we wanted to do was, or we want to do, because we're still doing this, is to try and maximise club usage. We recognise the importance of racing to the existing members and to new members, so we wanted to improve the racing that we do. But one of the key things for a sustainable future is to be able to attract new members and to retain existing members, and we're doing that by providing training and more diverse water sports like stand-up paddleboard, windsurfing, powerboat training, and we're also sort of changing the way we're doing training. We are targeting family groups, so we want families to learn together. So what we've done there is for families that want to learn with us, we have club boats, and we allocate an instructor to that family, and they basically plan their own training schedule between them, so that it's not a fixed number of dates. It's much more flexible than that, to try and attract these families, and that's been successful over the last few years. So these are the sort of things we want to do. In addition to that, we want to become part of the local sporting and social community, most likely to be able to provide easy access to water sports for everyone. So we have after schools clubs, for kids from the local schools. We do summer schools during the summer holidays, again for kids with our fleet of toppers. We do sailability, which is teaching visually and hearing impaired people to sail, and trying to encourage them to take part in club activities. And also we've had local guide troops, and we're slowly building up this, but we really do want to become part of the local sporting and social community. We're part of there's a sports hub organisation in Prestwick. We're part of that, and also we've just recently joined the new Ayrshire outdoor partnership, which is looking at all sorts of outdoor activities for anybody. We've become part of that, and we're hoping that we can get heavily involved in that to encourage more people to benefit from getting out in the water. This year, of course, like for everybody, has been not quite what we planned. At the beginning of 2020, we had a full schedule of training, racing, open events, a whole lot of things planned. And of course, in the middle of March, with the lockdown, that was all just completely stopped dead. Not only did it stop all our activities, we had not at that point collected many subscriptions for the club. Our membership year was basically from Easter to Easter, so we had a few people that had paid, but not very many. So we were like all clubs, we were faced with this challenge of, well, what are we going to do in 2020? So we basically stopped everything and put in place a COVID strategy, which was to follow the guidance given to us by RYA Scotland. We spent a lot of time in discussion with RYA Scotland about how we could move forward, and very quickly we recognised that the absolute key thing for us this year was just to get back on the water, because the physical, mental and social benefits of sailing are huge. So just getting back afloat in any sort of way was going to be top priority for us. Now the lockdown dragged on, as just everybody knows, and we decided that it just wasn't going to be a normal year. So what we thought we would do is sort of shift, not our priority, but obviously like any club, members pay a subscription to join the club. We were faced with the dilemma of, if we tried to charge people subscription for a year where there potentially would be no activity, we might have a lot of members just not rejoining. So we could end up with a lot of people leaving and not having much income in the way of subscription. We had enough money in the bank to see us through the year, so we had that behind us. We took the decision that we would make membership free to anybody for this year, because there was a possibility that we might have no activity at all this year. So we decided we would make the membership free, and we advertised that, of course, amongst our existing members, but we also advertised it on Facebook and the local community Facebook pages and everything like that. And what happened was something we kind of hadn't anticipated. Was the lockdown, of course, affected us, but the lockdown also affected everybody in the area, and nobody was able to go on holiday anywhere, and an awful lot of people were doing local activities because that's all they could do, and because of that, a lot of people in the locality suddenly thought, oh, actually, there's a sailing club there. We've never been out in the sea before. Maybe we'll join the sailing club. Oh, and look, there's a Facebook page saying it's free this year. Let's join. So we went from about 15 family memberships last year to 60 family memberships this year. So it's made a massive change to the number of families we had as members of the club. Also, making the membership free meant that we retained all, or very nearly all, of our ordinary members are sort of members from previous years. A lot of them hadn't rejoined when the lockdown started because they thought, oh, there's going to be no activity. But when we made it free, they all rejoined. So our priority changed from income, from subscriptions. It changed completely to actually, let's attract as many people as we can into the club, and let's see if we can retain them into next year. Now, as things turned out, the lockdown relaxed, and through a lot of hard work by our training people, we were able to get family group training up and running. And so we trained 28 families. And so our challenge now for next year is to hang on to those people. So we are completely revamping our subscription arrangements for next year, so that we want all members to pay a subscription, but it's going to be a pretty nominal sum, because we want to attract these people back. Because you're back to our vision. Our vision is to be a sustainable club. We're only sustainable if we've got a fairly healthy membership and new people coming in, and that's what we're trying to do. I think the key things that we've done are to define a vision and recognise that is probably going to be different from what we were doing before, and not completely different, and not throwing out anything we'd done before. We're still, the main activity in the club is still racing, and it probably will always be like that. But to recognise that we were just not going to survive doing that on its own. So having that vision, getting the committee all to recognise that and all to be moving in the same direction, and then identifying what you need to put in place to deliver that.